The final candle we light is known as the healing candle. And I ask you to take a moment and think of anyone you would like to put into that healing candle, which includes yourself and all the children of the world and all the mothers of the world and the divine feminine within you, so that we may all experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine.
Please repeat after me. I am love.
I am love.
I am peace.
I am peace.
In my heart.
In my heart.
I am free.
I am free.
I am spirit.
I am spirit.
I am soul.
I am soul.
All together.
All together.
We are whole.
We are whole.
Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Oh, love. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Oh, love. Calling in the light of love. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
And let us join together in spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer. So right where we are, God is, this isness, this allness, this creativity, this power, present wisdom, this beauty, this joy, this light, everywhere present. And as each of us in this room and not in this room are aware of this beingness, it is us and as us and through us making the expression that we call life. So as this day unfolds, it unfolds perfectly, no matter what. It is this perfection that shines forward, shines us onward to our next step. So this morning, I know, we know, the world knows that joy is ever present. The beingness is ever present. Love is ever present. Wisdom is ever present. And as we are here together in celebration of all of that and even more, we agree that it's a darn rootin' tootin' good thing. And in the celebration of today, we just say, yeah, let's get ready, let's get busy, let's do. In gratitude for this center, in gratitude for everything that it took to get us here today, oh my, and then some more. Happy Mom's Day, everybody. Happy Divine Feminine, everybody. It's all God and it's all good, so in gratitude we release by saying together, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Lenore and Connie. Yes. You have no idea how appropriate the rootin' tootin's going to be later on, so I love that. I love it. And we are live now on live stream. So thank you to Travis for going up and fixing that, and the mysterious man that was online that helped him with that. So when we say hello to everyone, it wasn't, well, I'll just let that be. When we say hello to everyone joining us live on live stream, I'd like to invite you all to take a moment and say hello to each other. Have some high fives and some handshakes and get to know each other in a new way. So one of the things our founding minister used to always say each Sunday was, we welcome one and we welcome all, and so that's true today. So what's our first song that you guys have for us today?
Can't help falling in love.
Huh?
Can't help falling in love.
Can't, he's whispering it to me like he doesn't have a microphone. Can't help falling in
I want you to present it.
Can't help falling in love. How appropriate for Mother's Day. So ladies and gentlemen, Leah, Yaron, and Guy.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you.
I couldn't help but just assume you're singing to Ezra the whole time, that you were singing that, right? Just couldn't help it. Thank you, Leah, Yaron, and Guy. So I'm going to begin this morning with a confession to a guilty pleasure that I have in life. I'm going to have you all stimulated. Look at Connie laughing. I love that. Have you all stimulated. It's not that bad. But last week I was listening to my guilty pleasure, which is Radio Andy on the Sirius XM. Does anybody have Sirius in the room? Does anybody listen to Andy Cohen? Well, it's just trashy. It just is. In a Real Housewives-y kind of way, and lots of gay gossipy stuff and all that. And I just live for it when I'm driving. It just seems to be, and even in the office when Sarah's not here, you know, it's like there'll be times other people in the building are like, what are you listening to? I'm like, don't pay attention to it. But as I was listening to it, he and his ex-boyfriend, John, who co-hosts several of the shows on there, kept saying out loud, Shazam! Shazam. And the more they said it, the more annoyed I got with it. And yet, as we do with guilty pleasures, I couldn't bear to change the channel. And so as I continued to get completely annoyed with them saying Shazam, Shazam, wasn't quite sure why they were doing it either. And once again, unable to change the channel, I realized for myself as I was in my car or here in the office when it happened, I don't actually remember when, I thought to myself, I am an awake, conscious, practicing metaphysician, allowing myself to get annoyed in this very spiritual, sacred environment, continuing to listen to trash radio, not making a decision or making a choice like I preach and teach to change my experience here. So what am I here to do? And I thought, well, my role here is to change my thinking so that I could change my world. Anybody ever found yourself in that trap? Okay, just me. I'm the only human around that has that happen in their life. But as I was choosing to change my thinking and change my world, I started reflecting on the word Shazam. Now, I'm sure many of you in the room are familiar with the word, correct? Yes. Do you know where we first heard it, right? Well, we first heard it from Jim Neighbors and the show, the Andy Griffith Show, another of my guilty pleasures, by the way, because it takes me back to my childhood growing up in the bowels of Georgia, and it wasn't like the bowel, it kind of was, but growing up on a farm. The nearest town was Lovejoy, Georgia, which was miles away, and Lovejoy prided itself for a population of 250 people. But as I would watch the Andy Griffith Show, seeking to escape from Lovejoy, obviously, to North Carolina in the Andy Griffith Show, big move there, right? But I would watch that, and that's how I was introduced to Gomer Pyle, as he would also say, golly. Right? All right. You guys are wondering, where is he going with this? So trusting the universe, as I've learned to do and teach and preach, several days later, the universe popped up a show on YouTube. A great way to experience God is through YouTube. Would you guys agree with that? And a show popped up called Headliners and Legends. And on it was a documentary, if you will, interview on the life of Jim Neighbors. Now, I'm assuming there's at least one person in the room that probably knew him. Are there more that knew him, right? So what a wonderful man. And I'm saying he's a wonderful man. I didn't know him. But what I've heard is that he was a wonderful man. And in this show, the story called Headliners and Legends, the story of him and the trajectory of his career was shared. And he was interviewed by Matt Lauer, and what it talked about was here was this young man of great talent who didn't really fit into the norm of the small town in Alabama that he grew up in. He knew he needed to get the hell out of there and got into the entertainment industry, and then from there ultimately started doing a part of a comedy routine, and then from there got to LA. There were many circuitous changes on that route there, and ultimately being introduced to Andy Griffith, getting the role of Gomer Pyle on the show, ultimately that becoming a spinoff to the show Gomer Pyle. But he was being interviewed talking about how when he was doing the show with Don Knotts and Andy Griffith, that oftentimes there would be a break in the script, and he would jump in and throw out words such as Shazam or golly. And he was talking about how he did that to seize an opportunity. And I really found myself tuning into that as if that was the outcome of why I got annoyed listening to Andy Cohen earlier in the week, was to be reminded for each of us that we have these opportunities in life to see God anew that doesn't always show up in the way where it's just spiritual, in the sense meaning that it's not just about sitting down with our legs crossed and our thumbs and fingers like this going om. When we teach in this philosophy that everything is God, that either that is true or it's not. And so looking back over not only Headliners and Legends, but looking at Gomer Pyle and Jim Nabors, the actor behind that, from my childhood, I was asking myself, why is it that I so resonated with this man on television, not knowing at the time the reason why? And it was because the law of attraction was attracting me energetically into someone who was uniquely independent in their life, someone who expressed their identity in a new way. You heard me speak of identity last week. He was a small town person, and that he had the ability to make people laugh and transcend his physical conditions and ultimately draw into his field of experience a life that was significantly greater than what even he could have imagined at the time. Not to mention he was quite fierce as a person, and ultimately came out as a gay man in life. And there were many similarities to that, which I'm sure I'm reaching a little bit on that. But the last one that I loved about him in regards to the trajectory of his life was that one of his favorite songs, and many of us have heard him sing it over the years, is The Impossible Dream. Shazam, The Impossible Dream. So this morning I'm going to talk a little bit about the concept of how do we step into the impossible dream in life, no matter where we are in the trajectory of our life. The lyrics of this song, which are from the show The Man of La Mancha, which is the story of Don Quixote, is as follows. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary to reach the unreachable star. No matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause, and I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lay peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to fight the unbeatable foe, to reach the unreachable star. That's what I talk about really every single Sunday here for us, is that's what we're called here to do, is to step into in real life these lyrics, to really reach for what we like to call the unreachable star. But what we're really being told here from a metaphysical interpretation of these lyrics is that to dream the impossible dreams means to use our imagination to believe that we are worthy of more in life than we currently believe, and that we get to experience the outpicturing of this self-worth, this belief of self-worth, by using our mind and our understanding of the law of life. We do that through choice. And then when we're stepping into that, life shall show up in all of its magnificence and glory, which sometimes looks radically different than we expect it to look. But to know as we walk this journey of personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, that it truly is one step of the march at a time. As it says in these lyrics written by Joe Darian and Mitchell Lee, is that to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. In other words, meaning that hell not as some destination or heaven as some destination, but meaning that to be willing to walk through the mud and the murk that shows up in life on the journey of finding our personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, of stepping into the evolutionary process of ridding ourselves of anything that's contrary to our divine nature, so that we rise up in mind as a conscious evolutionist and live according to the qualities of the divine that we are imbued with, which I spoke of earlier and do every Sunday, which is peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom. And to know that this quest of life, whether we're experiencing things that we label as great or things that we label as the opposite, is indeed a glorious quest if we choose it to be a glorious quest. And it can only be attained by living and stepping into the higher idea, which in these lyrics is considered or being labeled as the impossible dream. In other words, it's that which is beyond what our mind knows as our spiritual truth in that moment. But to go towards what we believe oftentimes is the unobtainable, the impossible, by believing that it is possible and attainable. Now, I know that each and every one of us that is here in the room and those watching us through Facebook Live and those that are live streaming, at some point in our life had some idea or some dream that we thought was beyond the reach, beyond the scope of what was possible for us in our life, and it then became manifest in our life. And we looked at it and went, whoa, how the hell did that happen? It happened by choosing to know and know that you know, and know that in the very depths of your soul there is that within you that knows that as you stay on the quest, you must attract into your experience a reflection of the vibrational frequency of the very idea that you're holding in truth, in mind, that is a reflection of your spiritual truth, because the spiritual truth that we know in this philosophy, faith, and way of life is that every single thing that we desire to express and experience already exists in and as the mind of God or source or the thing itself. And our role on this journey, if you will, is to not to attempt to make it happen, but to develop the consciousness of the very thing that already exists and draw it into our field of experience and expression, and to be awake and alert and ready for it when it shows up, so that we may embrace it and experience it, and then not hang on to it as it's the only experience of good that we have in our life. So today, my goal and my objective and my purpose is to remind us that the unreachable star is indeed reachable, that the impossible dream is indeed possible, and that we have the ability to have the experience of the very thing that we desire. There's a great quote, and you've heard me speak of it before, by Gil Atkinson, and James is here in the room, and he's heard me say it for 100 years, which is, impossible is just an opinion. Now, I studied with a teacher for many years named Fred Wilson, because I got to tell you, when I first got into this teaching, this whole concept of everything is possible seemed a little lunatic, seemed crazy. Just seemed crazy. I was like, that's not true. And it says and it is true to some degree, as I started studying with Fred Wilson years ago, he puts it a different way. He says everything indeed is possible within the realm of possibility. It's important for us to know that everything is possible in our life within the realm of possibility. Well, how do we draw into our world a greater awareness of what's possible in our life, and then a greater expression of it, and a consciousness of not only knowing that we're worthy of it, that very thing that is the outpicturing of that everything already exists already in our life? How do we do this? Well, Fred says that we do this through a process called the pyramid of achievement. In other words, the pyramid of the revelation, the experience of the very thing that we choose to desire, to have as an expression in life, understanding the only way it can show up as form or the expression is by developing the mindset of it first, holding on to that mindset and letting the law of life do its work. Step one to do that is through clarity. He says that we must be clear in mind. Well, what is it we're to be clear on? We need to be clear that the power that we're dealing with is unfailing by nature and that we're one with it. The second step in this process is connection. Connection of what? The connection to the very thing that exists within us that we're expressing and experiencing. God, source, the thing itself, love, light, peace, power, beauty, joy, and wisdom. The third step is to become acutely aware that opportunity is everywhere. 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 And Fred likes to talk about that not only is it everywhere, which is his word for God or source of the thing itself. Not only is it there, but it is multidimensional, and that it's sitting around us at all times. We can't see it necessarily, but it's there, it's energy. We can draw it into our field of expression and existence by knowing it's there, by trusting in the universe, by knowing that we're all interconnected, and to be really clear that it's there and it's ours for the thinking. The next piece to that is to step into looking at limitation. Not limitation in the sense that there is limitation, but limitation from the perspective, what do we think is impossible? What limitations are we placing upon ourselves through our actions, our thoughts, our beliefs, our reactions with life, old ideas, habits, the way that we show up in life? Where are those? Become clear on those so that we can eliminate them. The next step in this is through preparation. If you've ever heard Oprah Winfrey's definition of success, it is where preparation meets opportunity. In other words, it's important for us to do the other steps, but to be prepared when our outward expression of the very thing that we've developed the consciousness of shows up. For many of you that have done spiritual mind treatment with me, you know that as I end those treatment sessions, I say that we now declare that the good that we've done the spiritual mind treatment for, that your mind is now clear on, is open and ready to not only receive your good, but every single step you take forward, it's taking an equal step towards you. And that when you meet each other, you meet and greet energy field to energy field, consciousness to consciousness, and you embrace that expression of life as long as it is a vibrational resonance field that is equal to yours. And the very moment it's not, you have the faith of God to let go of it and open your mind and your heart and your soul and your being to continue walking forward, ready to embrace that next expression of the divine. That requires preparation. The next step is direction. In other words, change your thinking constantly. And really what that means is to change your thinking into an internal way of thinking, of knowing that you're the divine, knowing that you're one, that life is indeed good, and that your peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom, and that you're worthy of all of the opportunity that exists in the universe. And the next step is to take action. As I talked about a couple of weeks ago, old school metaphysics talks about it in this way: treat and move your feet. And go, Shazam! It shows up. Shazam, it shows up. Now, many of you have any of you seen the movie Shazam out there right now? I haven't, but it's part of the DC Comics. And I love that in researching for today, I looked at what does Shazam stand for in the context of the DC Comics. And it's actually an acronym. And here's what it stands for. S stands for the wisdom of Solomon. H stands for the strength of Hercules. A stands for the stamina of Atlas. Z stands for the power of Zeus. A stands for the courage of Achilles. And M stands for the speed of Mercury. In other words, what we're being told is that when we say Shazam and live in Shazam, we're calling forth within us wisdom, strength, stamina, power, courage, and speed as an evolutionist. We're stepping into it as an evolutionist, drawing into our field of experience an outward reflection of knowing that we have wisdom and strength and stamina and power and courage and speed, and that we're bringing forth into our field of experience the very thing that we desire to reveal in our life. But to do that, we've got to consciously be awake. We got to consciously be alert. We got to consciously ask ourselves, what do I know? What do I believe? What do I desire? And what am I willing to risk in this very moment? Fred writes in his composition known as the seminal question, he says that we all live life with the seminal question in front of us. In other words, why am I here? Right? He writes this in regards to the topic of natural progression. He goes, in addition to truth, there's a second area in your life you must examine in order to truly bring out your passion when answering the seminal question. Awareness. It's awareness. Now, Deepak Chopra tells us that awareness is all that there is. He goes on to write, what do I mean by awareness? Well, several things. One definition of awareness is a state of mind that more easily remains alert to what it is that drives you in life. Now, in this context, what I'm encouraging to have drive you in life is your spiritual awakening into that which is possible within the realm of possibility for you to express and to experience. He goes on to write, I often say, the people who stay conscious of their why win. If you can be that person, you dramatically increase the likelihood of personal accomplishment and fulfillment in life, as clarity of mind concerning what motivates you most passionately causes you to stay much more on track. Of what motivates you passionately. What motivates each of us as full expressions of the divine that Spirit has placed its stamp of individuality upon in your life? What motivates you? Remembering that if you break the word passion down, it is pass I on. In other words, when we live in our passion, we're passing the individualized expression of the divine on to the world. He goes on to write, a second kind of awareness is your level of openness to what is possible in your life. Are you aware that because life is always changing, it offers you a constant and ever-renewing source of possibility? This is an area of much confusion for far too many people. What often happens is we get caught up in struggle between what's possible versus impossible in life. Unwittingly, we occupy our minds with a mental concept that is irrelevant. Impossibility. Instead, we should embrace the reality that our possibilities are, in fact, infinite in scope, and that as a result, opportunity is everywhere. This is due to the ever-present universal process of natural progression, which is the ongoing transformation of energy into opportunity. Now, that might make your brain hurt a little bit. But that's a good thing. He goes on to say, this is due, in other words, stepping into what is possible in life, is due to the ever-present universal process of natural progression, in other words, what's going on in nature, which is the ongoing transformation of energy into opportunity. He goes on to write, interestingly enough, although the process of natural progression is your guarantee that opportunity is everywhere, it's a process that's not commonly understood. Yet, in essence, the process of natural progression represents the actual structure of which opportunity for you in life emerges. At its most fundamental level, the universe is composed of pure energy. Think of that for a second. At its most fundamental level, the universe, that which we are one with and of and as, is composed of pure energy. Being of common composition, everything in the universe is connected and therefore in some way interactive. The connective, interactive nature of the universe ensures that pure universal energy is continuously composing and recomposing itself into infinite varying states, and that as a result, change is constantly occurring. Although you cannot see it with your own eyes or gauge it with your own human reference of time, the infinitely diverse and constantly changing nature of the world you live in is an excellent example of this fundamental process. And ours is a world of such diversity and change that it comes with a never-ending flow of possibilities for each one of us in life. Possibilities of all manner and magnitude. Of course, as an individual, you can't possibly act upon all possibilities. The truth is, you can't do everything. When would you do it? He goes on to write, though, fortunately, however, you don't need to do it all. Simply by viewing the endless range of possibility through your own personal filter of awareness, you will be capable of recognizing opportunity pertaining to your own needs and wants in virtually every situation you encounter. In other words, the true formula for success isn't in seeking perfection, but rather progression. When you're working towards your goals while remaining open, what's possible within an environment of boundless opportunity, you're certain to exceed. What he's telling us here is that for each and every one of us, our good exists. Individually. And that for us to experience that within the realm of possibility, it's important for us to see, to know, to become aware of the energy that exists in the universe that is waiting to be transformed into form for you and you and you and you and you and me. And as it does this, because it's connected and interconnected and infinite by nature, when you step into the fulfillment of what's possible for you, it's not detracting or taking away what's good for anyone else. It doesn't work that way. In fact, I would believe personally that when you step into it and it magnifies, because the law of life magnifies itself out of itself, that's what love is. It's making more of itself out of itself. That's its desire. That when we step into that and it magnifies itself, it actually is sending out more energy for each and every one of us to step into that, because that's its nature of replicating the very thing that it's multiplying. What I want you to hear today in a new way is that opportunity is indeed everywhere in your life right now. Right now. Right now. The very thing in your life that you're afraid might happen is being waited. Just waiting for you to call it into being so it can be transformed into something that is a reflection of your divinity. But that can't happen if you're not willing to do the work. And if you're not willing to step into the clarity, if you're not willing to take the risk, if you're not willing to shift your beliefs, if you're not willing to go out there to the leading edge of your thinking and believing in life, if you stay in the same, if we all stay in the same behavior patterns of before, our life will not change in a way that's beneficial to us, but it will indeed change, because that's the nature of the very energy that we're talking on. When I heard this concept of opportunity is everywhere from Fred the first time, it literally changed my life. It changed my life, because for the first time in my life, I understood this philosophy in a new way. I understood this concept of when we say it's all God. That's a big idea, right? That's a big idea. It's one that can be overwhelming, especially when we see things that take place in life that our minds want us to believe is the opposite of that. But it doesn't change the truth that it's everywhere. It doesn't change the spiritual truth that the qualities of the divine exist equally among all of us. It doesn't change the truth that we draw into our experience, a reflection of our state of mind. Now, so often in life, we want to judge that. Let's not judge it. Let's just let it be. And by understanding that life is infinite, that it's really a bit crazy to look at life in this one little block that's being expressed for people as to whether their life is better or worse or good or bad. Just looking at it as it's all life. And remembering that our role on this journey called life is to live our magnificence. It is to know that the dream that may be defined as impossible isn't. To know that, to have the courage, as we have that courage, thought by thought, action by action, that what we draw into a field of experience is more of the good that is inherent within us. And so today's the day, should we choose to align ourselves with our divine nature in a new way, that we get to live with all of those qualities that exist. And that every time we choose to say Shazam, the energy changes and good is being made manifest. And so I know for you, as I know for myself, that today's the day that I get to imagine in a new way the good that I desire to express and experience. And as I do so, it's being made magnified, multiplied abundantly, and is moving out into your field of experience and bringing good into your life. And that as you do it, it does the same for the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. And in so doing, we do indeed leave the world a better place. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Thank you all. Thank you. So now to sing the impossible dream. No, I'm just kidding. So it's my pleasure to welcome back to the Bema Leah, Yaron, and Guy.
Thank you. It's for all the mothers, right, Leah?
Sure, yes. And fathers and everyone, really. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Thank you.
How sweet it is to be loved by you. I don't know it that well, so everybody help me. Come on. Needed the shelter, someone's arms. There you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs. There you were. With sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I want to stop and thank you, baby. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Close my eyes at night. I wonder what would I be without you in my life. Everything was just a bore. All the things I did seems I've done them before. But you brightened up my days. The love so sweet in so many ways. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I want to stop and thank you, baby. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Ooh, how sweet it is to be loved by you. to be loved by you.
Come on. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Yeah, yeah. Come on, baby.
How sweet it is
To be loved by you. Ooh, sweet it is. Thank you guys so much.